allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jennifer, may we have roll call?
Commissioner Tikkanen?
Here.
Commissioner Koskela?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Jansen? Here. Commissioner Brits?
Absent. We have a quorum. First item of business, approval of the minutes. I entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the September 29th and the October 5th meeting minutes as presented.
I support that.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Tikkanen to adopt the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next item is the agenda. Do we have any additions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make two additions. One would be rescheduling the November meeting, because I think there's a few conflicts with schedules. And the second would be a resolution on Secure Michigan vote initiation petition.
And then I'd like to add a few, if I may, Mr. Chairman, or at least offer to add. One, I'd suggest we do a motion to accept County Administrator Ben Larson's resignation effective October 22nd is what the date that he wished to, and then include in that motion a motion of appreciation for his 14 months of service to this county. And then I'd suggest a motion of thanks to Senator McBroom and Representative Markkinen for including in the fiscal year 22 the trail funds and the 2018 flood road funds that were included in the fiscal year budget. And those are my additions.
I'd entertain a motion to set the agenda with those additions.
Second?
Okay, yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Yep. Yes.
Glenn support.
Moved by Commissioner Jansen, supported by Commissioner Anderson to approve the agenda with the additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Public comments on any item that's on the agenda.
Which one to start?
Forrest Schmidt, I'm here for the resolution that we would like the county board to approve, which is to not support the Secure Michigan vote initiation petition. It's a petition that does not give voters an opportunity to say yes and no. It would only require 3.4% of the population to get this thing passed and to the legislature. There is the fact that they will make it harder for the voters of Houghton County to register to vote in person, and obtain absentee ballots. And since rural areas like this have a significant elderly population, I think we need to take that into account when we're doing this. And then the difficulties of administering all of this by our election officials. People say it's small government, small-time government doesn't have much to do, but when you start getting involved, you realize how complicated small government is. And so when you add this onto the burden of what already is required of township clerks, county clerks, it's almost impossible to keep up with all the requirements that these laws would cause. So the other thing is for some reason they feel that we should give out our sensitive, positive personal information when registering and voting, and thereby exposing the personal identity information to an unnecessary risk of death. And also, the sponsors of the Secure MI vote intend to deprive citizens of Michigan the right to consider and vote on Secure MI votes proposals on the ballot. So I believe that it's a duty of our county commission to allow to take this resolution up and to be able to get support the work that's been done by our county clerk, our township clerks, and all the poll workers. And as a number of you have heard me say in the past, all of this work is really done diligently. Nobody is trying to do anything to make it any appearance of any impropriety on their part. So I think it's really important that we, in having you prove this, that you're actually supporting our local election systems. I think that's really a significant feature. So I really appreciate if you would take this into consideration. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, will you, I'm Mary Sears, Franklin Township. Will you give a rundown of what that legislation is, exactly what it says?
Yeah,
Do you have that?
she's gonna do right
Yeah.
now.
So this is just a there we go. This is a condensation of an article that came out in the Bridge magazine very recently. And it really summarizes it pretty succinctly. So, and this was recently approved by the Board of Canvassers. So this petition is alive. This petition is active. And we are here to suggest that there are serious problems with it. Okay, so here's one item: toughen in-person ID rules, require ID information for absentee ballot applications, Social Security number, the short version, barring unsolicited absentee ballot applications to voters. So in other words, there would be no mass mailing of absentee ballots. You would have to request it. Prohibit private election funding. So no private company would provide election funding. So those are the,
I don't see anything wrong with any of that stuff. I think that you should have an ID when you have a ballot. They should make doggone sure you are the person that is.
there's already an ID requirement. When we, had the balloting in 18, there was an ID requirement on that. And
There
so-
was mass ballots going out with this last election. The girls couldn't even keep up with them. It was ridiculous.
You mean the absentee ballot?
The registration forms for all of these different absentee ballots. Yes, it was ridiculous. There needs to be some kind of control over what is going out to who. I mean, my goodness sake, our girls could hardly contain themselves. They were getting so much garbage through there. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any hurry to do this. Is there a hurry to do this? Because I would really like to take a solid look at that legislation. I think all of you guys should before you decide on any kind of a resolution before that. Talk to your treasurer, your clerks over in your townships to see what trauma they went through. Jennifer, crying out loud. It was awful.
Well,
the whole election was terrible.
The argument is that it's going to be far, far worse. Just far worse.
We need to get a control on our on this vote, on our voting. We have to get control on that.
Yeah, I've got the petition if anyone wants to see it, the actual wording.
I would like to see that.
Sure.
Is
it's
it
here.
true that it's asking you to write your social security number on the
Well,
outside of the number?
not the total social security number, the
But
last
even
four
part of it on the
digits.
outside of the envelope?
It's the absentee ballot. I mean, the social security number has never been a requirement. Suddenly it's going to be at least the last four digits of your social security number.
But,
I'd like to see that.
Sure, okay.
The League of Women Voters has already looked at all these issues you're talking about, and they have,
That's not necessarily a group that I would. I
I'm
would.
just one of many.
Yeah, let me find it.
I would definitely like to read that legislation myself before that, and I would think that each commissioner would read that legislation for themselves before getting on any kind of a resolution,
That's the.
either one way or the other. Because seriously, we do need a little bit of
Find out.
control
Here
over
it is,
our
here it is.
elections.
So there are
was
several things you
lunacy.
could copy.
You feel like our elections were out of
This is
control last
probably the
year?
most pertinent.
I don't think that they were out of control. I think there was a lot more, because people requested to go on the permanent absentee list, caused the workers a lot of time sending out absentee applications to them for the election in August.
How many times, Jennifer, did you get calls? I know Tara did. I just sent my application in. I'm getting another application.
In
Did you get my
2020, that was
application?
bad because there were so many groups sending out, in addition to our Secretary of State sending out
Exactly,
applications.
exactly. That was ridiculous.
So people were thinking they could vote 2-3 times, which would have been voter fraud. But yeah, it was because too many people were sending them out.
I could read this. Probably a good idea. This is the actual petition. Initiation of legislation. And so the idea is that if they get the 340 some odd votes, or signatures on the petition,
5 minutes is up. Any other comments? Yes.
My name is William Keith. I'm a resident of the city of Houghton, Christian Jansen's district, and from what I've just heard here, I am really dubious about this legislation. I don't want to be required to be putting identifying personal information, such as even a partial social security number, on the outside of an envelope if I'm sending something in to request an absentee ballot. So I really think that that would be a serious issue with this legislation. I'd also like to say that I think we all know what the game is with this petition, which is that it's not really a good faith effort to legislate. They're seeking 340,000 signatures from Michigan voters, and if they get them, they will approve it into law, and there will be no chance for the mass of Michigan voters to say yes or no on it. There will be no chance for the governor to give a veto, so there's not going to be any sort of statewide ask about this. And I don't think that 3.4% of Michigan voters should be making a law for everyone. Now, if there was a reasonable chance that this would come to the legislature and then be put to a referendum, I'd be a lot less worried about it. I don't think it'd be very popular, and I think in that case it would fail. But this is an attempt to make an end run around a legislative process. It is within the law. This is the law in Michigan. This is a way that laws can be made here. I don't think it's a particularly good way to make law, and I think that the Board of Commissioners should take a principled stand against it, because I think we all know what it's intended to do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Moving on. Approval of the bills. We have $2,224,254.97 in bills.
I move that we pay the bills.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Tickenen, supported by Commissioner Johnson to pay the bills. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Tickenen,
Yes.
Commissioner Koskela,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jansen.
Yes.
Carries. I have no correspondence. Anybody else have any correspondence they want to bring up here? Reports, standing committee. We'll start with Gretchen.
I just want to say that I recently attended a couple of conferences. One was Michigan Association of Counties, and the other was UPAC, which is the Upper Peninsula Association of Counties, and both were very informative. It was a great chance to meet with other commissioners in the UP and kind of discuss similar things that we're all going through. So I just wanted to, I guess, say that I'm happy that I was able to do those two conferences recently. That's my report.
Commissioner Anderson.
Just a couple items. I guess one, I just want to thank the apportionment committee for concluding their work, and for those of us who attended at least some of their meetings realized that they put such good faith effort and serious and professional effort into it. I particularly want to just call out Dan Holcomb, who represented the Republican Party, and William Keith, who represented the Democratic Party. I thought, again, they were exceptionally professional in their efforts and proposals on the different maps and the different proposals, and of course they had a lot of citizen input, as we all know, as well. So I just want to thank the committee overall, Brittany Billett, Lisa Madela, Dan Holcomb, Jennifer Kelly, William Keith. I thought, again, they did a very good job and what's good for Houghton County in the next decade. So I appreciate that, and I heard Jennifer say that was filed yesterday. Is that what I heard you say, or today?
Today and accepted.
And then that becomes effective immediately then?
Effective immediately,
Okay,
yes, sir.
thank you for that clarification. And then I did want to welcome new sheriff, Josh Sarnan, in the back here. Welcome to your first county board meeting as sheriff. Thank you. And best of luck in your duties and big responsibilities. I did want to, I guess, comment again and just thank all the 7 applicants for county sheriff. Again, they were all extremely qualified, as I mentioned at the last meeting, and I think it's a tribute to former Sheriff Brian McLean of the quality of applicants, because they all wanted to be sheriff in Houghton County, and that would not have happened if Sheriff McLean had not operated professionally and properly, and I think that's a recognition of it. And as Albert always points out, we have a hell of a sheriff department in Houghton County, and I think we all, at least at this level, endorse that and know that Sheriff Sarnan will keep that professionalism going into the future. So I did want to just welcome you.
Thank you very
again,
much.
Josh, and wish you all the best in a very, very tough position as well. So, and then I'll just elaborate a little bit on the appropriations that got into the fiscal year 2022. I think some of you saw some of this already, but both Senator McBroom and Representative Markinen were able to get into the fiscal year 22 regular budget, $2.3 million for the Houghton County Road Commission, the City of Hancock $235,000, and the City of Houghton $320,200, which represents $2.869 million. And that's for the federal 2018 flood match for federal roads in Houghton County. And that was on top of the $3.3 million that both gentlemen got for us last fiscal year, if you remember, as part of a supplemental. So that's on over $6.1 million for flood damage roads for Houghton County during the 2 fiscal years that both of them worked very hard and diligently to get. And then in addition, and I think Tom's going to elaborate this more, but there was funding included in the fiscal year 2022 budget as well for the flood damage to the trails. I'll let Tom elaborate on that. But again, that would not have happened without close collaboration and our efforts, including Ben Larson, who's been our liaison, but also Kevin Haryu who's our county road engineer, deserves a lot of the credit for spearheading and leading that effort to get that appropriation. And they're still not done. There's still hope that there could be some additional appropriations supplementally, going with the $10 billion the state still have to spend this year to help with some additional funding, but at least with this fiscal year appropriation, it met all of the federal match requirements for the 2018 flood for the jurisdictions that I mentioned. So very significant action on behalf of our legislative delegation. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Tikkanen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just to pick up on what Glenn reported on with that bipartisan effort really in Lansing to pass this latest budget. Thanks to our Recreation Authority, which has worked for months on trying to get these recreational trail repairs, particularly between Dollar Bay and Lake Linden. It was funded, then the funding disappeared, and it was kind of a tug of war over the years, but thankfully that is funded again. Our legislators will be recognized later in this meeting, but they brought a high-powered group up this spring, including State Senator Bumstead, who has the purse strings really on a lot of these funds that get to us via the DNR. At any rate, the engineering bids will be let soon. When the trails will open, I doubt that you'll see that happen this calendar year, but it's a big step forward. It's huge. Also wanted to report on the status of the 5th Street Calumet fire disaster, that cleanup. Thanks to a marvelous, it's a marvelous demonstration of cooperative effort from all levels of government, starting with the tiny little village of Calumet, all the way up to the Environmental Protection Agency. That is virtually completed. They're still compacting fill in that site right now, but it's going to get wrapped up before we're in the dead of winter. There's an outside chance we may be even able to interest the EPA in assisting the village in a fire site cleanup on 7th Street, which has languished for several years. We would be remiss for not recognizing Congressman Bergman's efforts. He alone was one elected official that showed up outside of the area and toured that site within days after the occurrence back in May, and in turn strongly petitioned the EPA to help the village with this cleanup. So really, it's the EPA, it's our State Department of Environmental Quality, and as well as our local efforts with the township, Calumet Township, the village, and Houghton County to get this completed. It's a tragedy, but we'll move on to bigger and better things with the development-ready site. Efforts will continue to collaborate with between the land bank, hopefully, and the village of Calumet to see if we can transition the ownership of those privately held lots to a bigger infill project. We have, we'll be hearing from our airport manager. There's some developments there on an effort to hopefully, no guarantees, but it's in the early stages to arrange for a flight diversion in the cases where they can't land here in Houghton County. I'll let Dennis elaborate on that. Moving on to the transfer station, we'll be accepting applications for a manager for that facility. Those come to your office, correct, Jennifer?
If you so wish.
We'd appreciate that.
Sure.
If you're interested in running the transfer station, get your applications to the clerk within the next 14 days. We are at long last next week for those who are bringing loads in and have been asking for a card payment, credit cards, debit cards. I have it on good authority that we'll have a machine operating there next week.
I have a quick question. Are you also posting in the paper the job?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
be going through that whole process.
Great.
Absolutely. Also, the cardboard, since we have, well, first I'll report on the recycling efforts. Some of our people who care to recycle are frustrated because there's been very limited access to the bin. Effective immediately. It's available 5 days a week. Whenever the transfer station is open, you can bring your recyclables. Saturday, it will not be available for the simple fact that that's when we have it's an extremely busy facility, including the contractor drop-offs. So Monday through Friday, normal operating hours. We will shortly be making an announcement on later hours, 2 nights a week. We've had that request for years. We're going to be taking action on that. Stay tuned. To date, from May through September, we have diverted 12.5 tons from the landfill. This is a baby step, but it's a step in the right direction, and it's going to grow. Also, thanks to the efforts of our recycling initiative, there is a Zoom and in-person opportunity for a meeting at the Carnegie Museum on October 21st at 1 p.m.
1:30.
1:30, thank you very much, Harsh. 1:30 at October, we don't want you to get there too early. But that will feature Brad Austin, who is in charge of the Solid Waste Commission for Marquette County, and also Tracy Durenhag, forgive me, but she is our UP recycling expert with the Environmental and Great Lakes group from the state of Michigan. So mark that on your calendar. That's going to be a big update on recycling opportunities and efforts with the through the state of Michigan. And I believe that's all I have for today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. I got a few things here. First of all, I'd like to introduce our new administrator. She's sitting there grinning like a skunk eating raspberry seeds. Elizabeth DeJorn, sitting at the end of the table. And in the back over here is Becky. She's our new controller, Becky Ilitalo. And then we have a little tiny guy in the doorway there who's our new sheriff, Josh Sarnan.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, may I have one comment?
I'm waiting.
Tom is way too humble. I think, all the people that I talk to in Calumet give Tom credit for leading, at least stepping in and giving leadership immediately for the fire damage. He led the first tour of that property, the fire damage. And I realize it was a collaborative effort, as you mentioned, between the township, the village, and many other players. But I think you don't get enough credit. You don't give yourself enough credit for your leadership. And I just want to mention that because that's what I hear when I'm around up that way.
So we'll award him with one attaboy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
County officers, I'm gonna start with Lisa this time because she always hides in the back row.
Nothing to report this month, Mr. Chair.
Todd,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As catch up to speed, our BSNA program is implemented and training has started this week. And they'll be here training yet next week. It's sure putting us in the 21st century. And I'd like to thank Ben for helping us get that on board. That's really gonna help be transparent to the building department and keep everything consolidated. I would personally like to thank Ben for working with me the time that he's been here, and I'm gonna miss him. I'm also looking forward to working with Elizabeth and helping her any way I can. Thank you.
Dennis,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the airport, our loads are actually from July, August, and September are on par for pre-COVID loads. So things have come back nicely. We'll see what October brings. It's one of the busier months we have up there. Also, there is a Sun Country charter that will be going out on, I think around November 19th it is. So if you haven't got your ticket for that, you might want to look into it. Riverside Resorts and Casino helps out the airport, and it's a good place to go. Tom alluded to, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Ticketin alluded to alternates for the airport. We've been actively working with SkyWest to try to find a solution instead of coming up here and going back to Chicago to maybe divert to a closer alternate around here. Those talks are still ongoing. We're close, but it is possible that we might be able to use Rhinelander. So when that happens, we'll definitely let everybody know. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't guarantee every time you're going to go to Rhinelander, but it will help if you can do that. Other than that, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
And then it's just, I know the rates and flying into Amex in October seem very reasonable. I mean, is that, am I wrong? I mean, I got relatives that are coming in later this month and the rates are some of the lowest that they have seen. One coming from the East Coast, one coming from Detroit, but Is that normal, or is this a little lower pricing going into the fall, or what's
No, I
your?
wouldn't say it's normal, but it's good.
Yeah, obviously good.
The reason for that possibly is because, you know, the airlines were bracing for another round of COVID with the Delta variant. That hasn't really materialized as much as they thought it would, but I think that's why your prices are a little lower right now. And, you know, they'll pick up later again once things go on, because the airline's just looking for cash flow right now. And with the airline shortage that's gonna hit us, and the shortage is all over, it could get ugly. We'll have to see, not just with airlines, but everything. I mean, I'm sure everybody's aware of that. So, but right now, I hope those rates stay low, because coming into November, December, January, that'd be a good time to buy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dennis, if we could just add on there for anyone who's paying attention on this diverted flights to Rhinelander, if it happens, that would include completing your trip by bus, so that we can at least get you back here.
Either completing by bus or fuel and come back, depending on the weather.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many times they get up here, they divert, and then all of a sudden the weather, you know, it's a miracle, it clears up, and then it stays that way. So hopefully we can work something out with them.
Jake,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jacob Scherf. I'm the Deputy Equalization Director. We've been working, finalizing our studies and doing, you know, our annual things in the Equalization Department. But the reason I'm here this evening, on behalf of the Equalization Department, I asked that the Board of Commissioners approve the apportionment report as presented per MCL 211.37. This report is an annual report that includes taxable values and millage rates for the various units of government, school districts, and tax levying authorities in the county. You know, so basically an overview of the taxable values for the townships and what they're going to be levying in each of them. I believe you all have a copy of that, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me or Cheryl.
Josh.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity for the first board meeting tonight. I guess since assuming this position, there's left a couple gaps in the sheriff's office. So over the course of the last couple of weeks, we worked on filling those gaps from the bottom end by hiring a Deputy Blake Fronte within the last couple of weeks. My position, my former position as Detective Lieutenant became open. We have a new Detective Lieutenant, Charlie Klein, that we just filled that position this week. So I'm in the process of finishing up some of my casework and getting him briefed up on my former casework. Otherwise, I've been trying to brush up on our budget and getting everything in order. You know, it is a very tragic event and very sudden. So I guess I just look forward to working for not only the people of the county of Houghton, but working with the county commissioners as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Becky. She's our new,
I have nothing to report yet, Mr. Chairman.
any of this back there?
That's it.
Moving on. Public Act 152, the opt-out for the healthcare exemption. We've been doing this ever since 2014, and we'd like to do it again this year. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll support.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Jansen for the opt-out healthcare. All in favor?
Aye.
I have to have a roll call in that.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jansen?
Yes.
Commissioner Tickenen?
Yes.
Commissioner Koskela?
Yes,
Commissioner Britt's absent.
we have a 2/3 that carries. Next item is a discussion item. I guess there's no motion required on that. The marina plume cleanup completed. Unless Ben got something to say about that, or?
I just want to make a public, I think we should have a public thank you to both MDOT, a great guy named Tom DeShane, and also the MD Deline group from Lance. We lost an apple tree, but we saved about $50,000 there. So they came and did it free of charge. So they came across Rice Road, cleaned up the sump pond, cleaned the 2 tubes that run under Rice Road, cleaned the whole waterfall way, cleaned the last sump pond, and they dug out into the canal to scoop that out, and it all went to the landfill in bags, which is required under our permit.
So we saved a heck of a lot of money. It didn't cost us a darn thing. And they said they'll do this every year now. So for the next 5 years, if we have sediment that comes down from the Quincy mine, just know that that's going to be taken care of for the next 5 years. So we have a permit with both Army Corps of Engineer and Eagle to do this. But I just think it's really nice for them to come and take care of that for us. Didn't cost us a dime. I was thinking about hiring MJO when they come for the Houghton dock to come over when we had steam shovels on pontoons, but it didn't cost us a dime. We lost a apple tree, but pretty doggone awesome. So I just wanted, there's pictures in your board packet there, but pretty cool for us to get that taken care of, and they're willing to do it again for us next year. So just wanted to give them some public recognition. It's very nice.
Next item is a lift bridge request for UP MDOT, which goes to the Coast Guard, I guess.
And again, if you would just know that obviously we had a great collaborative effort by the head of the state police, the head of the ambulance, our 2 hospitals, our 2 municipalities, Michigan Tech, our own sheriff department had just asked for some common sense leadership on when the bridge gets raised for a pleasure craft at 7:30 or 4:30, just how much of a disruption is even getting a sick patient to the hospital. So just wanted to let you know that all those letters have gone to UP MDOT. They want to make the formal request to Blair Stanifer, but you have it in your packet there of all the people that say this is a good common sense local thing to get done. So we'll see what happens, but Aaron Johnson, the regional engineer from the Superior region, will be sending it in on our behalf. So just want to let you know that got a big gift.
Next item is the Lorium Credit Union building property.
Mr. Chair, many may be surprised to learn that the Houghton County still owns the what is now occupied as the Torch Lake Federal Credit Union in Lorium. That extends from the dates back when the 911 service was handled locally. And there's a giant tower as part of that parcel there. At any rate, that is not needed by the county anymore. We do need to retain ownership and maintenance of the 911 tower, but other than that, and have access to some of the electronics that are housed in the building. But Commissioner Jansen and I, along with Administrator Larson, evaluated the building, and we have a standing offer to the Torch Lake Credit Union for purchase at the amount of $325,000. They are taking that to their board of directors, and that's an ongoing enterprise, an ongoing situation. But it is the intent to eventually, once we do strike a deal on a price, bring that to the full board for review, and hopefully return that property to the tax rolls where it should be.
Next item is Houghton County Arena property, and that's the same situation. Mr. Larson?
So yes, Hancock City has made an approach to the county, and they might want to turn it into Hancock City Arena, which I think would be a great win for every county taxpayers. So just so you know, we still have a debt of $430,000 on there. So we are about to cut our next check for $40,000, which we do every fall, which put a new roof, locker rooms, ice plant. When they want to turn into Hancock City, I think that'd be a fantastic thing. So the commissioners did go walk around with members of the Hancock City Council to look at this. There is no action at this time, but if you're paying attention to Hancock City Council notes, you'll see this has already been talked about in public forum by them. So just want to have it out there that perhaps at some point, if we can have that debt remaining taken care of, perhaps there's a chance for us to turn it into Hancock City Arena. In my opinion, would be a win for every county taxpayer, but just it's out there just so you know that's happening.
Sharon Avenue Church update. Roy is not here. You handle that?
Actually, I was not able to go to the last meeting because I was at the conference, but.
So late on Friday at about 4 o'clock, we had a wonderful Zoom with the members of the Houghton Portage Township Board. They are interested to help us out. Obviously, the big problem is that side of Sharon Avenue is not the county seat. That is not the city of Houghton. That is Houghton Portage Township. So to annex that 1 6-acre parcel across the street and have it become part of Houghton City is a very important item. So that is the last remaining hurdle. We have not bought it yet. We have this last hurdle to cross, but we had a very nice talk with them on Zoom, and they said they are willing to help us out. They would like us to buy the property. So if the board is interested in doing that, I am working with our attorney and their attorney to make sure we have the right document, at which point we could sign that, give them the 1.1 million, and then we own that. Then on October 18th, they want to take it to the Houghton Portage Township Board, and they said they'll ram it through 7-0. And then what they would say is, they want us to pass a millage. Obviously, that's going to be an important step for the jail to be built in the back of it. And if that comes through and we start cementing bricks together, they would talk about a formal, full annexation, never to come back to Houghton Portage Township. If that doesn't happen, they want it to stay in a 425 agreement, because what's the guarantee to them that that won't turn into something else? So that was their view. Roy seemed to think that was okay. They had mentioned some different dates. Possibly they would give you 9 years, get a millage passed. You have 9 years to get a millage passed. And if you do that, they would make a full annexation of that one parcel, 6 acres, to across the road to become part of Houghton City property. So that's where we are right now. The board would like me to. I'm happy to get this done before I leave. I did talk to our lawyer this afternoon. He's aware of this. If you would like to have a final draft document that we could sign, and also the Apostolic Lutheran Church, to get this done, Houghton Portage Township has requested that for their October 18th meeting, if you want that done, but I had asked for your direction, what you want to do with that. That was what happened on Friday.
The yearly apportion plan adoption,
Mr. Chairman, may I just comment on that? I mean, I think we should, if we can, buy it by when Ben leaves, by October 22nd. I mean, a 425 agreement is annexation legally, so that's a moot point, and obviously full annexation in the future, that's fine, but it becomes an annexed property with a 425 agreement. So, I mean, to me, we've already approved the purchase. I just think we should close on it as soon as we possibly can, in my humble opinion, so. I'd like to do it before Ben. I mean, it'd be nice to have it done before Ben. Doesn't mean Elizabeth can't handle it, but I guess if we get the legal work done.
Do we need a motion?
I'll make that motion to direct our county administrator to try to close the deal, to actually purchase it by October 22nd.
I'll support that.
moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Ticketon, to move on that Sharon Avenue property by the 22nd of October. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think the reality of it is that's a tall order.
Maybe.
But,
Maybe.
or as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yearly apportionment plan, look over there to, is Ben gonna handle that, or is our,
Well, that was already reported on by our equalization director, deputy directors.
what was reported?
This right here. And it has been issued to us, and I would make a motion that we adopt it.
I'll support that.
Moved by Commissioner Ticketon, supported by Commissioner Jansen, to adopt the yearly apportionment plan adoption. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next item is for the November meeting, moving of the November meeting.
It's been requested that the November Board of Commissioners meeting move from the 9th to the 16th due to conflicts of interest with other board members.
Do we need a motion on that, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Okay, I so move that we change the November meeting date to November 16th.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Ticketon, supported by Commissioner Jansen, to move the monthly meeting in November from the 9th to the 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. The next one we have here is this resolution business.
So I'd like to make a motion that the Houghton County Board of Commissioners opposes the Secure Michigan Vote petition.
And I'll second that.
I personally would like to see what that's all about before I
Well, we have the package here, right?
take a position on it. But it's moved and seconded.
And I
Moved by
guess just-
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, just discussion, I guess, is just my only point is anything that would make absentee ballots harder for our elderly residents, to me, is an injustice. And that's the biggest issue I see. And we still had approximately 20% of our voters who didn't vote in the last election. Some of that because absentee ballots were viewed as not, was viewed negatively, and that just hurt the elderly turnout significantly. I just think anything that reduces the opportunity for elderly to vote absentee is not good. So that's why I would support this resolution. As far as the social security numbers, the last 4 digits, I can't believe they'd ever allow that, but I mean, to me, that would be going too far. But in any event, I guess that if it's in there, that shouldn't be in there, but.
If I may comment, I appreciate the concerns. If anyone is an advocate for our senior citizens, I certainly am one. Frankly, though, I think that the arguments against this are unduly politically motivated. I'm not sure that there's really an unbiased opinion being presented on this, but nevertheless, the motion's been made.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Jansen to adopt this resolution. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jansen,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tickinen,
No.
Commissioner Costello.
No. Resolution fails. We have one more here on Markin Trail.
Well, congratulate. I'll make a motion that we send, or we put in, we adopt a motion giving appreciation to Senator McBroom and Representative Markkinen for funding, for including in the fiscal year 2022, what I say, $2.8 million in road funding for the 2018 flood and $4 million for the trail flood damage, Dollar Bay to Lake Linden.
Do I have a second
So
on
that's
that?
$6.8 million.
I heartily second that.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Tickinen to give a commendation or a couple of attaboys to these guys. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Part of that was Larson resignation and.
Oh, yeah, then I'll make a motion, we accept with regret Ben Larson's resignation effective October 22nd and commend him for his 14 months of dedicated and loyal service wherever he went.
Thank you, bud.
And to recognize the accomplishments that, I wrote down a few things, but to recognize the accomplishments, if I can find my notes here, of what he accomplished during his relatively short tenure. I mean, recycling got added, again, along with credit from the county board. Credit cards going to be accepted at the landfill for the first time and ever. Processing and getting the ARP money here for, which took a big little effort to get that funds here. To handle, union negotiations and all the other things that go with it in the last 14 months. I mean, and selling, he did, obviously encourage us to sell the property on Sharon Avenue, the old transfer station at Pisco through in Lorium. Again, just those are things that make sense, and we all support that. So I just want to recognize that he actually did some significant accomplishments during his tenure.
And put some budgets together for the transfer station and the marina, which never had budgets before.
Yes.
And also he was an integral part of the negotiations for the purchase of the Sharon Avenue property.
Yeah, all true.
So we could go on and on.
Yeah, he improved the security of this building, which I think is really important.
And many more. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson and supported by Commissioner Jansen that we give a few attaboys to Mr. Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Public comment.
Horace Schmidt, I'd like to ask the board to reconsider the resolution that you just voted on. And if you've had a chance to review the law, see what is actually going on. So I just want to remind you that there's been about a 25-year fraudulent campaign of on voter fraud. And there has scarcely been any fraud that's been found during that whole period of time. So, but why we keep on having it, I don't know, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Thank you.
Any others? Mary?
I would absolutely encourage you to read the legislation because it doesn't say what you guys are trying to say it says. What it does say is it gives you an opportunity. It gives you now 4 pieces of identifications instead of the 3 that we're used to. You can use that 4th one, the last 4 digits of your social security. You can do that if you want to. I just read it here. That's what it says. And all it does, all the rest of it does, is it secures the chain of custody of the ballot to make sure the people that are supposed to have the ballots have the ballots. That's what it does. Read the legislation. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none. I have no announcements. I'd entertain a motion on item M.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second?
You are adjourned. Wait, you're